Pella locals Phyllis Zalstra and Jackie Craver are expert seamstresses who have used their talents to create a beautiful array of Dutch costumes. Each year, the duo selects and creates the Tulip Queen and Court's costumes that will forever mark this elite group as royalty.
When you think about the Netherlands, the clothing that they wore is what we call Dutch costumes. And when you celebrate that Dutch heritage, I think the day-to-day clothing is part of it because that's what they would wear in their daily life. And so I think it ties in really closely with tulip time.
I think for Pella and tulip time, Dutch costume wearing is something that surprises our visitors. They come to see the tulips, which are beautiful, gorgeous, colorful, and then they see all the people dressed in their Dutch costumes. The school children, the Dutch dancers, the street scrubbers, there's just a lot of costume wearing, and it just shows the pride that we have in our heritage. The Netherlands started as a very small country with many, many different costumes. People were isolated and didn't travel a lot. But as we've seen in a lot of the research that we've done, several things influenced that. The French fashion often influenced the women's costumes. But often you will see that they were unique in that their hats were unique to their area or to their village.
And another thing too, there were a lot of sea traders in the 1600s and 1700s that would go to China or the Dutch East Indies, and they would bring back beautiful fabrics from those areas, and when they brought those back, they wanted their wives and their daughters to have clothing made of those fabrics so that they could sort of show off a little bit, and it was sort of a sign of their wealth.
I think the time period that would be represented most often would be the 1900s to the 1950s. That is a time when a lot of the immigrants were coming to the United States, and it's kind of a time that we recognized for a while. But through our research, we've also been able to find lots of pictures and costumes from probably the early 1800s through the 1900s that we've tried to incorporate into costume making as well.
Wooden shoes are still worn because they're practical, and I've never been to the Netherlands myself, but I've heard that there are areas that the ground is kind of damp, and leather shoes just don't last like if you're wearing them to garden or do yard work. So they're just kind of practical for working outside in damp conditions.
Yeah, I was fortunate to go to the Netherlands, and I saw costumes being worn in Marken and in Staphorst. But I believe in Staphorst, the costume wearing is more of a tradition of some of the older people, that they don't want to give that up. I think what I've learned is looking at the costumes and figuring out how to make the pattern that will fit a particular person. Yes, looking at details, and I think we've learned what parts of a costume they typically used and how to make those authentic for the people that we're sewing for. We enjoy educating people about the costume, different costumes, and what the possibilities are for them to wear. So sometimes we will do something traditional for Queen and Court, and other times it'll be something that no one has seen, so that it kind of gives a new idea of what people can look for in costumes.
Soon after tulip time, well, actually sometimes before tulip time, when we have already finished that year's costume, we start to think about some ideas of costumes or what we would like to do the following tulip time. And we just look through books. Sometimes there's been a costume that we just made that is different from any that we've made before, and we think it might be kind of fun to do something different for the Queen and Court that people in Pella haven't seen.
Probably the main thing that you're going to learn about a Dutch costume is where the wearer of that costume lives and what time period that costume would have been worn in. Beyond that, you can tell marital status sometimes by the ornaments on their hat. Sometimes you can tell their wealth, again, by the ornaments or the amount of decoration they have on their costume. And especially in the fabrics that are used in the costume, that differs quite a bit from area to area.
To learn more about the different costumes, watch the overview on the various provinces and their costumes.